Handicapper Steve here, handicapping the racing from Pimlico Racecourse here on Saturday. It is May the 20th, 2017. Going to look at all the stakes races on today's program from Pimlico, including the $1.5 million Preakness Stakes that goes off as race number 13. But before I get on to that, remember to please follow me on Twitter at HorseRacingKit5 for more selections for race courses around the world. The stakes races I'll be looking at are races 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. So 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and the featured 13th race, which is the Preakness. And stick around to the Preakness Stakes because I'm giving you my thoughts on every single horse in this year's Preakness. So let's get on to it. Starting off with the undercard races, though. Race number 5 from Pimlico. It's the 18th running of the Very One Stakes, purse $100,000. It's for fillies, mares, 3-year-olds. A field of 11 3-year-olds and upwards, going the distance of ground of 1,000 meters for our international viewers, or 5 furlongs on the turf course. And I show that diagram. It gives me a second to look down at my notes, so just bear with me. My top pick in this one, I like the number 2 horse, Everything Lovely. I'm going to go 2-7-5-6 in the superfecta, 2-7-5-6 super. But my top pick, number 2, Everything Lovely, 9-2, Javier Castellano for Kathleen De Masi. This 5-year-old mare out of Pollard's Vision. Most for this land is 28th of January at Gulfstream Park. 5 furlongs in the ladies' turf sprint. This horse finished second by 1.5 lengths. Broke first that day, or actually broke second that day, but went straight to the lead and got caught right before the wire, was drifting out a little bit in the stretch, but couldn't conserve the pace that day. Got closed up by the winner, Pretty Perfection, won that day. Won next start out, and is also running back in this one today. But to see this horse wins today, I think she has to slow down a little bit. She went 21-1 to the quarter, to the half 43-3. The ran a race in 55-1. She has to slow down. If she slows down today, and just even if she doesn't set the pace, but she sits just off it, I think she could do well. Start before Tampa Bay Downs, 5 furlongs in Lightning City Stakes. This horse finished third by 2.5 lengths that day. Had a horrible race, got bumped that day, and closed up a tiny bit at the end, but still need that extra good kick. But start before November 26th at Tampa. 5 furlongs on Upshell 100 claimer. This horse ran very well, won by 4.25 lengths on lead all throughout and had a very clear victory. It was just an all-around great race. Before then, in the Franklin County Stakes at Keeneland, this horse finished 7th. He didn't have the best of trips. The turf course maybe wasn't to her liking that day. Finished second in the Turf Amazon, second in Jamelia at Laurel this summer. Finished 11th in this race last year behind Lady Shipman, but this horse last year set the pace early on and then weakened out of it, but this horse was coming off a very long layoff, so maybe she needed the race. But I think here, because she's coming into it better, if she slows down a little bit, I think she could do well. So to recap my bets for the 5th from Pimlico, it's the 18th of Very One Stakes. Going to go with the 2 horse, Everything Lovely. Going to go 2-7-5-6 in the superfecta. So now let's get on to race number 7 from Pimlico. The 7th race is the 8th running of the Chick Lang Stakes, presented by Maker's Mark. Purse $200,000. It's 4 3-year-olds here. Field of 9 3-year-olds going the distance of ground of 1,200 meters, or 6 furlongs on the main track. 6 furlongs. And my top pick, I like the number 7 horse, number 7, Recruiting Ready. I'm going to go 7-1-8-5 in the superfecta, 7-1-8-5 super. But my top pick, number 7, Recruiting Ready, 8-5. Horacio Caramanos is on this 3-year-old gelding, 3-year-old colt here, trained by Horacio De Paz. This horse is a Maryland-based horse, and, he's run very well as of late. But last time out at Oakland in Arkansas, April 13th, 6 furlongs in the $150,000 Bachelor Stakes. Horse won by 5.25 lengths and hit another gear in the stretch run on lead all throughout and just kept going. Very good, easy not dueling, but on lead all throughout victory. It was just an all-around great race. Before that, first start off a layoff, Laurel Park, 6 furlongs, March 10th. This horse won by length that day. Was a little bit dueling that day. Broke out, but he got the win. He needed that race, but if you watched the replay, great. I have to applaud, before I get on to his other runs, I have to applaud the Maryland Jockey Club for putting all the replays up on their YouTube page. It's so much easier. A lot of other race courses practice that way also with the replays. But back to recruiting ready. His start before at Gulfstream Park, 1 mile in the Mucho Macho Man Stakes. His horse finished 10th by 23 1/4 lengths. Set the pace early on, but then weakened out of it. I think this horse is going to be a better sprinter than a router. Mile was just pushing it a little bit too far. Before that, in the Buffalo Man, an overnight stakes for 75 at Gulfstream Park on the slop, he finished third. It was his first start off the layoff, first start on a very wet surface, or second start on a wet surface. He didn't get a handle of it, really weakened out of it. He finished third in the Iroquois last year at Trail, going a mile 16th. Another reason why I think this horse is a better sprinter. But before that, finished second in the Saratoga Special, but actually got placed fourth through disqualification because he came out that day on a horse and destroyed the horse's chances, but finished second in the Bashford Manor at Churchill and won over the surface very nicely as a 2-year-old, going 4.5 furlongs. This horse is the speediest. I think he could win well here, so I'll use him as a top pick. So to recap my bets for the 7th from Pimlico, it's the 8th Maker's Mark Chick Lang Stakes. Gonna go with the 7 horse recruiting ready. Gonna go 7-1-8-5 in the superfecta. To race number 8 now from Pimlico. The 8th race, it's beginning of the pick 6 also. It's the 8th running of the James W. Murphy Stakes presented by Beyond the Wire. Purse $100,000. It's for 3-year-olds. Field of 13 3-year-olds going the distance of ground of 1,600 meters or 1 mile on the turf course. 1 mile. My top pick in this one, I like the number 4 horse, number 4 Dover Cliffs. I'm going to go 4-10-6-7 in the superfecta, 4-10-6-7 super. But in my multi-race pick 6 wager, I would go 4-10-6-7. I would use all 4 here. I'm going to find a few singles later on in the card to overcome going deep in some legs. But my top pick, number 4 Dover Cliffs, 5-2 Jose Ortiz for Christophe Clemente Strio, colt out of English Channel. Most recently in the Cutler Bay Stakes at Gulfstream Park, 1 mile on April the 1st. Horse won by 1.5 lengths that day. Sat back early, but got to lead the 8th pole, then took off clear. Very nice victory that day. Today's going to be his first start out of South Florida, but I don't think that should be a problem. I think this race is actually a little bit lesser quality horses than he faced a few weeks ago at Gulfstream. Start before at Gulfstream Park, mile 16th, February 19th, main special weight for 38,000. Horse won by 1.5 lengths that day. Just sat second most of the race, and then got the lead in the stretch, and then took off clear, driving at the end, had another gear. It was an all-around great race, and then maiden special weight for 38,000, Gulfstream Park, January 7th, mile 16th. Horse finished second by neck. Sat back early, but just got denied right before the wire. That's a perfect word that they used in the running line, and I have to agree with it. He was just closing up that day and just missed. The winner just creative courage, just had another gear in the stretch. But this horse had a decent second place finish there. He's done very well in his short career. I think the spot should be very well for this horse also, so I'll use him as a top pick. So to recount my bets for the 8th from Pimlico, it's the 8th James W. Murphy Stakes. Going to go with the 4 horse Dover Cliffs. I'm going to go 4-10-6-7 in the superfecta. To race number 9 from Pimlico, the 9th race, it's the 31st running of the Maryland Sprinting Stakes. Purse grade 3, purse $150,000. It's for 3-year-olds and upwards. Field of 9 3-year-olds and upwards going the distance of ground of 1,200 meters or 6 furlongs on the main track. Isn't this the race Artax the guy came out on to the racetrack and attacked Artax in 1999, 98, something like in the late 90s. That must have been I think the guy was very inebriated that day. I'm pretty sure this was the race too. But that's probably Artax was a very good sprinter, but that's probably the main thing he's known for. The guy coming out on the racetrack and attacking him. But my top pick in this year's Maryland Sprint, I like the 4 horse AP Indian. He didn't run that well last time out, but I think he's going to run a lot better here today. I'm going to go 4-5-6-9, 4-5-6-9 in the superfecta. Multi-race wager, I would use the 4 and the 5 and the 6. I would go 3 deep. I would go 4-5-6 here in the multi-race pick 6 or pick 5 wager. But my top pick, number 4 AP Indian, 8-5 Joe Bravo for Arnaud Declore, hopefully I said that right, who trains a 7-year-old gelding out of Indian Charlie. Indian Charlie is a perfect sprinting pedigree, and this horse, of course, he's out of it. He should do very well. Most recently, the 8th of April, Keeneland, 7 furlongs in the grade 3 Commonwealth. Horse finished second by 1.5 lengths. It was his first start off a layoff. He needed the race. He closed up to get. He actually got the lead in the stretch and got overtaken by Awesome Sue, who just got up there and ran a little bit better. But he needs to. Second off the layoff, I think he should do a little bit better. November the 5th was a start before at San Anita Park, 6 furlongs and Breeze Cup sprints. At 5-2 that day, this horse finished fourth by 4.5 lengths. It was a little bit wide in the stretch and had nothing. He just didn't show up that day. He won, but before that, he was pretty perfect. He won the Phoenix Stakes. He won the Forgo. He won the Vanderbilt at Saratoga. Won the Belmont Sprint. He won the basic 7 furlong sprinting race at Parks. Won the decathlon through a disqualification at Monmouth, and he was pretty perfect other than that one loss in the Breeders' Cup last year. I think coming here facing lesser quality horses, his only real main challenge is basically Whitmore. I think he should run a big one here, though. So watch out for this one. So to recap my bets for the ninth from Pimlico, it's the 31st Maryland Sprint. Going to go with the 4-horse AP Indian. I'm going to go 4, 5, 6, 9 in the superfecta. To race number 10 now from Pimlico here on this Preakness day. The 10th race is the 66th running of the Stella Artois Gallarette Stakes. Grade 3 purse $150,000. It's fillies, mares, 3-year-olds, and upwards. Field of 10 3-year-olds. 3-year-old up filly and mares going the distance of ground of 1,700 meters or 1 mile and 1/16th on the turf course. 1 mile and 1/16th. My top pick in this one, I like the number 7 horse, Eliza's World. I'm going to go 7-6-3-2 in the superfecta. 7-6-3-2 super. This begins to pick 4. I would go maybe 4 deep in this one. Eliza's World, of course I would use it. I would, of course, use the 6-horse On Leave, who I think is going to do well. Now the 4 deep. If I had to keep all, if say I have some restrictions with the ticket, with it going past my price range, I would maybe take Zabessa off. But I would go. Well, here's the thing: my ticket's not finalized yet. I would definitely use the 7-6, and it just depends if I'm going to use the 3 and the 2. But those two, I think, are the 2 horses I really, who I think are going to run the best. But number 7, my top pick, Eliza's World. 5-2, Joe Rosario for Chad Brown. This 4-year-old filly, Azize, can't speak now. This horse ran well earlier this year. Had a second place finish in Hillsborough a few weeks, about 2 months ago at Tampa Bay Downs and Mile 8th on March the 11th. Finished second by half length and closed up very well at the end. She might have needed that race. It was her first start there at Tampa Bay. But, she ran okay for the second place finish. Start before in the Grade 3 Swanee River at Gulfstream, Mile 8th on February the 11th. Horse finished second by 1/4 lengths. Really closed up well to get the second place finish behind Dickinson, who won that day. One next start out in the Tampa Bay Derby and in the Hillsborough, Tampa Bay, and then one next start out after that also. But this horse was a little bit wide, but got up there for second. Before that, this horse won an optional claimer at Gulfstream Park on December 29th, going a mile 8th very nicely by 1/4 lengths. Easy victory at 80 cents to the dollar. Before that, finished 6th in the Sand Points, 4th in the Lake Placid, 2nd in the Lake George, 6th in the Wonder again, and won her North America debut about a year and a week ago at Belmont. She should have run a very good one coming back to Stakes Company. The turf course, I think she could really close up a good margin on this turf course, so watch out for this one. So to recap my bets for the 10th from Pimlico, it's the 66th Stella Artois Gallarette. Gonna go with the 7-horse Eliza's World. I'm gonna go 7-6-3-2 in the superfecta. To race number 11 now from Pimlico, the 11th race is the 20th running of the Sir Barton Stakes. Purse $100,000. It's for 3-year-olds. Field of 10 3-year-olds going the distance of ground of 1,700 meters or 1 mile and 1/16th on the main track. Mile 16th. And this looks like a race where you could maybe single in. I like the 2-horse Hedge Fund as a single in the multi-race wagers. I would go 2-7-9-1 in the superfecta, though. 2-7-9-1 super, but my top pick and single in the multi-race wager. Number 2, Hedge Fund, 9-5. Javier Castellano for Todd Pletcher, the Drill Colt out of Super Saver. Most recently, 22nd of April at Hawthorne Park, mile 8th in the Illinois Derby. Sort of finished second by head that day and kind of dueled that day. He had the lead stretch and kind of got overtaken. Disappointing beat, but I think cutting back for 16th of a mile, he should do a lot better. Start before in the Sunland Derby at Sunland Park, March 26th. Stakes. Horse finished third by 8 3/4 lengths that day, or 8 1/4 lengths. He set the pace that day, but the closers really closed up well. Maybe he was a little bit too fast. He was going. He went 110 and 1 to the 3/4, so maybe he has to slow down. If he slows down a little bit, he should do well. And then first career start, Gulfstream Park, mile 16, February the 4th, the main special for 38,000. Horse won by 4 lengths, sat back early, but got the lead the stretch and took off clear. Went against the bias by winning from the 9 hole, which is something you don't see a lot going a mile 16th at Gulfstream. He should have a very good start here today. Gets a good post draw. Like I said, he's a single for me in the multi-race wager. So to recap my bets for the 11th from Pimlico, it's to Sir Barton. Going to go with the 2-horse Hedge Fund. Going to go 2-7-9-1 in the superfecta. To race number 12 now. The 12th race is one of my favorite races of the whole year. It's just always come up as a great race. It's the 116th running of the Longines Dixie Stakes. Grade 2 purse, $250,000. It's for 3-year-olds and upwards. We have a field of 10 3-year-olds and upwards going the distance of ground of 1,700 meters for international viewers, or 1 mile and 1/16th on the main turf course, by the way. Mile 16th, 1,700 meters, and something that pisses me off. Basically, a few years ago, they took a little. It used to be a mile and 1/8, and they decreased the distance to a mile 16th, which kind of upset me, because I think this is now a miler's kind of race. It used to be kind of like somewhat, the mile and a quarter horse used to get this race a little bit better, but now I handicap it more towards a mile race because it's an extra half furlong below and it's close to a mile. And it's still a great race. And my top pick in this one, I like the number 10 horse, the Grand Motion trainee of Ring Weekend. I think he'll run a big one. I'll go 10-2-4-7 in the superfecta. 10-2-4-7 superfecta. I would use all 4 of them in my multi-race pick 6 or pick 4 wager. But my top pick, number 10, Ring Weekend. 4-1, Jean Velasquez for Grand Motion. This 6-year-old gelding out of Tappet. Most recently, March the 11th at Santa Anita Park, 1 mile in the Frank Kilroy Mile, Grade 1 race. Horse finished 4th by 1 3/4 lengths that day. It was off slow that day like he normally is, and got up for he had 3rd in the stretch, but kind of weakened out of it. It just wasn't his day to win. He likes a very firm ground, and I think he'll get it today because it's been so warm in the East Coast here in America, and it's the harder the ground, the better this horse runs. Wish we could have set up for the other Grand Motion horse, Miss Temple City. He's gonna have to go to Ascot without a race now. But start before in the Arcadia at Santa Anita, good ground, 1 mile, February the 11th. Horse finished 4th by 1 length. Didn't do anything. I think the ground wasn't to his liking. And the San Gabriel off turf, mile and 1/8 at January 7th at Santa Anita. He finished 5th. Another race Graham probably wanted to see. Let me see what this horse does on a wet surface. He didn't do anything. He made $7,000 for that 5th place finish. It just wasn't his day to win. He won the Seabiscuit a month earlier at Del Mar, very fast ground, very nicely closing up, and he won the Bernard Baruch at Saratoga earlier this summer also. He should have a very good run. Last year ran this race. It was his first start in 14 months, and he finished 2nd, closing up and just missing the victory. But, I think he's going to run a big one here today, a lot better than the race he ran last year on fast ground. So watch out for this one. So to recap my bets for the 12th from Pimlico, it's the 116th running of the Longines Dixie Stakes. I'm going to go with the 10-horse Ring Weekend. I'm going to go 10-2-4-7 in the superfecta. So now let's get on to race number 13. Race number 13 from Pimlico. It's the big one. It's the 142nd running of the Preakness Stakes. It's a Grade 1 race here going for a purse of $1.5 million. We have a field of 10 3-year-olds going the distance of ground of 1,900 meters for international viewers, or 1 mile and 3/16 on the main track. I show the diagram. It gives me a second to look down at my notes, so just bear with me. And it's the second leg of the Triple Crown here, and it's a somewhat good race. A betting race, it's probably not going to be a good race because I think Always Dreaming is going to run a big one. I think Pimlico is right up this horse's alley, so he'll be my top pick. But I think it's going to be a great race for like the superfectas and the super high fives. I think this is going to be one of the best races for that underneath play. But let me give you my thoughts on all the horses. Starting off with the one horse multiplier. He's 30 to 1 here. Joe Rosario for Brendan Walsh. Not a use for me on any ticket. He did win the Illinois Derby a few weeks ago, but that was a very subpar field. He won out of luck. Hedge fund just had a horrible trip that day, and he's just not going to do well. I don't think this multiplier. He's not used anywhere. His best races, were not that good either. So he's not a use for me. The number 2 horse, Cloud Computing, I think he could run a very good second place finish here. He's second on my top 4 list or top 5 list for this Preakness Stakes. Javier Castellano jumps to this one rather than riding Gunnevera, who he rode his last, 10 starts, something like that. This horse finished third in the Wooden Memorial, had a little bit of trouble that day, had to alter his course a few times, but was closing a little bit at the end. I think Pimlico should really be up to this horse's to this horse's running style, because he's not going to be a deep closer, but he's not going to be on the pace either. He'll be right in the middle, and I think that would be perfect for this horse to maybe get up there for second or third. To win, I'm not sure, but he's a definite horse to use in your exactas and trifecta plays. He's only won once. That was around one turn on the inner track at Aqueduct. May rest in peace. Going 6 furlongs, he won easily by 1 3/4 lengths. But he's a definitely exacta or trifecta play horse. The number 3 horse, Hence, and this horse was getting bet into the ground in the Derby. My dad liked him. Everybody liked him, it seems, on Twitter. I do not like him here. I didn't like him a few weeks ago at Churchill. He finished 11th in the Derby, was far out of it early, closed up a tiny, and I mean tiny bit at the end. He's not a use for me in anywhere. He needs a very, pace. He needs a very big pace meltdown to get anything. He won the Sunland Derby out of luck, I think. He won twice, Sunland Derby and Main Special Weight at Oakland earlier this year. Other than that, he's run pretty crap, and he's just not a use for me. The number 4 horse, Always Dreaming. He's a top pick. He's a single in the multi-race wagers for me. My pick 4, my pick 5 play, like I was talking about, or pick 6 play I was talking about earlier. This trio colt out of Bodemeister ran an incredible Derby, winning by 2 3/4 lengths on that rated wet fast course, but really it was a sloppy racetrack. Had a broke, went straight to lead around the far turn into the clubhouse turn, and then sat on lead all throughout. Had an easy, clear victory that day, driving at the end. I think they could have ran around another lap, and nobody was catching him that day, who just was the best horse. Ran well for a 5-1 favorite. Before that, won the Florida Derby unchallenged, even though the Florida Derby was there was 2 or 3 good horses in that race. The rest of them were garbage horses, but this horse won easily by 5 lengths. This horse won a very nice optional claimer at Goldstream earlier this year and broke his mane at Tampa Bay Downs. He's run very well. Like I was saying earlier, this horse fits Pimlico to a T. He's a speed horse. He has a perfect post draw. He's probably going to get he's probably going to have some company with Conquest Mo Money on the lead, I think. But I think this horse will probably let Conquest Mo Money go a little bit faster than him, just sit off the pace, and like he did early on in the Florida Derby, and early on in the Derby also. I think this horse will get the lead in the stretch and then take off clear like he did now in 3 weeks here in New York at Belmont. The winners are Brooklyn bred and owned owners and stuff, along with Tom Durkin. I don't think he's Brooklyn. I don't think he's a New Yorker. He's an adopted New Yorker, let's say, since he called here for many years. But I don't think Always Dreaming will do that well in the Belmont, because I don't think he'll get the mile and a half. But the mile 3/16 is right up this horse's aisle. Just watch out for this one. I'm saying about the mile and a half. He's out of Bodemeister, but you have to remember Bodemeister is out of Empire Maker. So if this horse wins tomorrow, we have a Triple Crown kind of scenario on our hands. Like I said, I don't think he'll go the mile and a half, but he has pedigree for it by his grandfather. But that's for then. This is now. I think he's gonna run well here today. He's a top pick and a single in all the multi-race wagers for me. Number 5, Classic Empire, had probably the worst trip in the Derby out of anybody coming back into this race today. He finished 4th by 8 3/4 lengths. The next day, he had so much dirt in his eye. It looked like he was going to miss this race because of an infection. It all went away. Thank God, the welfare is with the horse first, like always. But he's come back into this race very quickly. But that scares me, because this horse is very quirky. After the Holy Bowl, where this horse didn't show up, this horse was on about a 10-week layoff until the Arkansas Derby, which he won, but he had to use a little bit. Julian Leparoux had to use the horse a lot that day closing up. In the Derby, he finished fourth. He broke, got bobbled at the start, got roughed around in the straightaway first time around, closed up a tiny bit at the end, but he's just too quirky for me to use him as a top pick here because he doesn't work out good. He had some problems physically over the earlier this year, and the 2 week turnaround really scares me with this one because he looks like a kind of horse that is with the pattern he goes by with working out and training. He doesn't look like a horse that could come back in 2 weeks time. I like him for third, and that's being nice, really. I think he's a third, fourth, fifth place kind of horse in this race. He's not a use for me in any win bets or anything like that, but he's on the bottom end of a super high five or a superfecta ticket for me or a trifecta ticket. Number 6, Guinevere. He's also on the bottom end of a ticket for me for like a superfecta play. He's not a win bet, but he's a superfecta play for me. Mike Smith for Antonio Santo. This horse finished 7th in the Derby. Broke. He got blocked at the start. That's 2 weeks ago at Churchill. Was a little bit wide, which you don't want to be in the Derby. It closed up a tiny bit at the end, but that was just a tiny bit, like Hence did a few weeks, like I talked about earlier. It just wasn't his day to win. He finished third in the Florida Derby. The ride by Castellano. I don't like criticizing something I can't do because I cannot be a jockey. You don't see a lot of 200-pound jockeys, do you? But the ride that day by Castellano wasn't the best because he took this horse straight over to the rail from the 10 hole, and I'd rather seen that horse go wide that day because this horse had an incredible turn of foot at the end, but he finished third that day, closing up after a crap trip, being wide, but being taken to the rail and then wide. He won the Fountain of Youth very good, but he's going to need a very big pace meltdown to win. Like I said, a third, fourth, fifth place finish, that's where I see him as. Don't see him winning today. Maybe in a few weeks at Belmont, maybe, and that's being nice also. Number 7, Term of Art, 30-1, Calumet Farm owned, Doug O'Neill trained, Jose Ortiz getting the mount on this one, getting blinkers on for the first time since January 7th, where he ran the Sham. He finished 5th that day by 17.5 lengths and didn't do anything. Was a very sloppy racetrack, so maybe he didn't get a piece of it, but just really weakened out of it. Wasn't his day to win. Since then, he finished 4th in the Robert B. Lewis, 3rd in the San Felipe, and 7th in the San Indy Derby, which is probably one of the worst preparations in my eyes for the Derby. Even though Battle of Midway ran a huge 3rd place finish in the Derby last week. But this horse was wide that day, closed up a tiny bit at the end, but he's the kind of horse you're going to need a big pace meltdown, and his best race doesn't even come to a grade 3 level. He's coming up to grade 1 quality horses. He's not going to win in my eyes. He's a total throwout. He had a better chance winning at the Breeders' Cup Juvenile last year than winning this race today. Throwout for me, along with the 8-horse senior investment with Channing Hill for Ken McPeak. He won the Lexington out of luck. He closed up well at the end, just getting up there. But before that, he finished 6th in the Louisiana Derby. Didn't do anything. He won an optional claimer against crap horses in early February at Oaklawn, very nicely by 3 lengths. But other than that, he's not a use for me in anything. The number 9 horse, Looking at Lee, he's a bottom end superfecta kind of horse, or what do you call that? Or a super high 5 horse. It's pardon me if I forget something. It's 2:30 in the morning, early Friday morning, so pardon. This Looking at Lee, he finished 2nd in the Derby, but something I've noticed, when a horse finishes 2nd in the Derby, they don't really do anything next start out in the Preakness other than finishing 4th or 5th. That is doing something, but they don't really do that well. And he had the, like it said on the running line or the comment line, dream inside trip to the 8th pole. And if you watch the replay, Corey Lanery must have had the Calvin Burrell gods with him that day. Calvin Burrell didn't have a mountain derby, but they must have went over to Lanery and said, let me give you the dream rail trip. And he got it. He got it for second, but he's not going to get that trip again today. He'll need a major pace meltdown to get the win. I don't think Pimlico will be to this horse's liking. I think this horse might do better later on in the year when you have like the West Virginia Derby, but he's not a win. He's not a horse for me here. He's only won once. That was twice. Ellis Park Juvenile and Basic Maiden Special Weight at Ellis. After that, he's finished second a few times closing up, but his best races don't come close, and he's just not a use for me here today. Conquest Mo Money, the 10 horse, he's going to be like the Hence horse. The way he's going to get bet is going to be the same way Hence got bet a few weeks ago at Churchill, I think. Jorge Carreno for Miguel Hernandez, this 3-year-old colt out of Uncle Mo. I think he's a miler. Uncle Mo is a true miler. Looking at his running line, he screams a miler. I think a mile 3/16 is pushing it for this horse. He's the other main speed behind Always Dreaming, and in fact, I expect this horse to be setting the pace, but I don't think he'll do anything. I think he's going to hit the wall going around the far turn and really just walk into the underline. If I could bet a horse finishing last, this might be one of them, or second last or second to last. He finished second in the Arkansas Derby after setting a wicked fast pace that day. He finished second in Sunland Derby after not breaking that well that day, but he got up to the pace and really weakened out of it. It wasn't his day to win. Against subpar horses, he won the Mind That Bird Derby, won basic allowance stakes race at enlisted stakes at Sunland earlier this year, and broke his maiden very nicely. But those 3 races which he won were against subpar horses. He kind of weakened out of it in the Grade 1 races, or in the Grade 2 races. Here, I think he's facing too much tougher horses. You don't have a jockey that's very experienced with Triple Crown big races. This horse is just not a use for me. Like I said, I do not fancy him at all. So that's my thoughts on this year's Preakness. Let me give you some picks now. My top pick, I'm going to go with the 4 horse Always Dreaming. Like I said, I think this race suits him very well. My top 5, my super high 5 play here, I would go 4-2-5-6-9. 4-2-5-6-9. I would use the 4 horse Always Dreaming. He would be the only horse, number 4 Always Dreaming, I would use in any multi-race wager. He would be a single if I would play the pick 4, 3, double, anything. He's a definite single for me. Now I might play a few 10-cent super boxes and stuff, or super keys. I would go 4 with the 2, 5, 6, 9. I would switch it up here, but like I said, Always Dreaming, I think he's going to run very well since this race suits him very, very nicely. So good luck to all. Please follow me on Twitter at HorseRacingKit5 for more selections for race courses around the world. And join me in 3 weeks for the Belmont Stakes from here in New York, from Belmont Park. But in 2 weeks, if you're interested in the British racing, the Investic Derby is coming up, the British Derby from Espin, and the Oaks is coming up in about 2 weeks' time. So join me here on YouTube for that. It's going to be a great weekend for that kind of racing also. Good luck to all.